All right. Welcome back. Now today, as Regina told you, anytime from now we'll be expecting that link from State House where the President will be swearing in judges of the High Court to take up their positions in their various working stations. We'll be giving that link as soon as we get it from a State House. And again later on, later on in the day, the President will also be heading to Mavoko to launch the affordable housing project, and that is part of the government agenda to have the 200,000 housing units across the country to bridge the deficit of the affordable housing in the urban centers. How is it going to be later on in the day? Again, we'll bring you that particular story in our subsequent bulletin and in details. But to understand more about the affordable housing in the country as part of the government's agenda, I have got Winnie Gitau, who is the COO of Kwangu, Kwako Real Estate, right?
Kwangu, Kwako Limited, yes.
Exactly. Yes. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
This comes at a time when many Kenyans are still grappling with the case of affordable housing. But let's start where we should. This is not the first time the President is launching the case of affordable housing. It was there in the last regime. It didn't take off as was expected. Again now, based on the previous regime, he's following up on the agenda, which was there, the Big Four agenda, the affordable housing, rolled over to the next government. Yeah. What is your take on that as a professional in the industry?
I think it is a good agenda, as it were, because we have a limited amount of housing. We have a shortage of around 2 million housing, and then an increase of around 200,000 yearly as we go. So the incremental deficit is still ongoing. So it is a good agenda. It is apt, and it is necessary, as it were.
Yes.
Yes.
But the government, perhaps the last regime, was the last regime ready for the project?
I wouldn't say ready is a correct term. I would use, yes, it is a need that is there, but was it implemented the way it was supposed to,
yes,
as deliverables?
Yes.
What is it that was lacking? Okay, in any project or in any company, we always find that somebody will find a gap. But the way to fulfill that gap is usually an issue. We might start with thinking maybe the customer needs X, and in reality, the customer needs X and Y.
Yes.
So how is it that you're going to meet both X and Y? In this particular case, yes, we have affordable housing, but is a gap really affordable housing, or on top of affordable housing, we also need social housing?
Yeah.
So what is the gap here, and how are the strategies going to meet the two gaps that are there? So the previous regime tried, and which is okay. They might not have met, but they started something. Yeah. So what lessons were there did the current regime learn for them to be able to roll out the current one at the speed they're doing? So they have to have thought about it to actually come up with another strategy, yes, and how else to do it, whether it is through partnerships or whether it is financing. But I believe they have something, they have thought about it.
The bottlenecks are there. You talked about social housing and affordable housing. What's the difference?
Okay, when you say affordable housing, it's the government usually has a particular, when you say affordable housing, is affordable housing to whom?
Exactly.
It's for which economic status are we talking about? Because affordable housing for people who earn more than 100,000 Kenya shillings is different from people who earn 50,000 Kenya shillings per month. So if you go to, I think they usually say 50,000 Kenya shillings, that one is usually affordable housing. Then less than that, say 30,000, those ones go to social housing.
All right.
So social housing are people who maybe they want to pay rent about 4,500 Kenya shillings or something like that. Then you move up the ladder up. The same strategy for affordable housing is not the same. It's not going to be the same with social housing. Yes. Social housing is going to need
even the structure
a lot
system
more.
Is completely different.
Its structure is completely different. So if you're saying affordable housing, then it is affordable housing for 40% of economic, are we saying 40% of those of the income bracket, or what is it affordable for housing for which one? So it's 50,000 from above. Is it affordable housing? Is it ownership? Is it rental, or is it both?
So what is the whole picture behind the scenes? How affordable is affordable?
As Kwangu Kwako, I will speak for myself. Yes. Affordable housing for us, we actually look at it not in terms only of owning a house. For us, it's also affordable in terms of rental, because not everybody can actually afford land and actually build a house. So we have to be real here. Not everybody can own land or want to actually own land in Nairobi.
Yes.
That is specific. There are people who are in first cities or second cities who are coming here to work, and then after that they go away. We carried out a survey, remember, in Kwangu, and we were asking people, would you like to own a house here and there? And they were like, no, I'm coming here to work. When I live here, actually I'm sending money home so that I can build a house. So it's not everybody who wants a house here or an apartment here. This is just a business.
Yes. Some people actually would prefer they have just a small structure somewhere. As long as everything is taken care of back in the rural area, then the rest is taken care of. But then that brings this question. The first one was Homa Bay, which we understand that 11 acres have also so far been handed over by the current CS, that is Zachary and Jeru. And then the second one was in Rongai, 200,000, part of the 200,000 units. Again, now he'll be heading to Mavoko. When you look at the rate at which this is going to be implemented, this should, some would argue that these are urban or satellite towns that where all this affordable housing coming from. Does it call for a larger expansion between the urban centers and the satellite towns?
Okay, the fact that we have different counties having land or the government giving out land, that is a start. That is the easiest step that you can actually have. The next step is construction, and then who is going to occupy those and under what conditions. It is not only the urban areas that actually have a deficit. We have rural areas also have a deficit. Urban informal have about 13% deficit. We have micro landlords have about 9%. Ownership or people who are usually building incremental housing have about 75%. So it is a whole value chain. It's not just one. It's okay to have land in secondary cities simply because we find that most people are employed in urban centers. So people want to actually walk to work or actually just have one matatu from home to work. So it makes lateral sense, so that at least we're finding that they are feeding the town to grow. Yes. So for him or for them, they're actually thinking in lateral way. Give somebody land for them, give somebody a house so that they can actually commute to work at the minimum amount. Also, it actually has something also to do with greenhouses, transport to work and things like that. Spending 4 hours from work to home or one way or something like that per day is a lot.
When you look at the curve, the demand and supply curve, where do they meet in terms of the demand for rentals, people looking for affordable housing, and then the supply? Where does the graph meet?
I think that is totally to the consumer.
Yes.
That is totally to the consumer, because the market will dictate. If you, like I said, giving land is the easiest thing you can do. But what is the market? Which customer are you targeting?
Exactly. What
is it that you are targeting? For one, I can say, yes, you plant a house for me, but have you considered that I use charcoal to cook? Because if you plant a big building, I'll say plant, because literally it's planting. You're planting a big building. This person is going to use charcoal, this person might use kerosene, and this person might actually have more in terms of what is it called, bills to pay. Yes. Because here you're talking about electricity. Are they ready to actually increase their bills to that particular? We are not talking about rent only. You got me from a place where I was maybe paying about 2,000 in terms of electricity. Then you take me to a place I need to pay for security light, I need for communal lighting, I need to pay for the security guard, I need to pay service charges. So my bill is going to go about 10,000. I wasn't prepared for that. So who's the target market? When you look at the affordable housing, who is the target market generally? For me, I would think it is people earning much, at least more than 60,000 and above. Because we are saying if your bill is about a third of your salary, then that one works. A third of your salary, that is usually the baseline. It has to be less than that for you to actually have a housing. If your bill is more than that, okay, you're living okay, 40% is slightly okay. But if you go 50%, please, that is really a lot.
From the explanation, I would imagine the government should now bring it back to social housing from what you said, because 60,000, that's not affordable. How many Kenyans are earning 6,000 shillings and above to break it down, to pay rent, to meet all the utilities and what have you?
That is why I've said they need to study the customer for them to actually decide how much is it that is going to cost them to build this building, and which customer are they targeting. If they're targeting rental, then it makes a bit of more sense, because I think in Mavoko they're doing bed sitters, they're calling it studio houses. They're doing bed sitters, they're doing 1 bedroom, they're doing 3 bedrooms. So who is it that you're targeting? If you're targeting ownership, I might go to that building and buy one bed-sitter. But if I'm buying one bed-sitter, what are the mechanisms for me to move up? Because I'm not always going to be single. I am going to have children. And if I've not finished to pay the bill for this thing, and you're telling me maybe I want to move out of this house for the next 5 years and already have a kid. So what mechanism is there for me to buy in so that I can move maybe to a 1-bed or a 3-bed, or can I sell or can I trade it off to a different place? I have been told my job, I'm no longer in Nairobi, I need to go to Kisumu. So what is it that I'm going to do with this asset? Is it going to be transferred to Kisumu? So some of these things, there are very many intricacies and things that actually just interact.
What are some of the bottlenecks that the previous regime faced in realizing the affordable housing from your research, if you have any?
I think it is customer segmentation.
Okay.
Because I believe what they actually wanted was social housing or some aspects of it. Because if they built a big housing and maybe it was 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, and then they gave it to one person, if they gave it to one person, the person was living in a single room, then you give me a 4-bedroom house, I don't know what to do with it. By the way, I'm seeing 3 other families living in it. So I bring up my 3 families, you rent there, you stay here, you stay here, and I stay in the kitchen. It's still a house. You gave me a house. That was one of those things that Kenyans are really nice in terms of finding a loophole of what is it that you're doing. Then from there, the only problem was the system, the infrastructure was not meant for all those people in that particular area. So that one will actually just mess your infrastructure. The other one is the person who moved out. When they moved out, they went somebody else. They went out simply because you didn't consider that they were coming from a community. It wasn't just housing. These people were coming from a community where they were going Mama Mboga next door, they knew them, they could get their 5 shillings, their 10 shillings worth of whatever it is they were getting, whether it was maize, whether it was sugar, whether it is a small city. So if you move somebody from an environment, have you considered everything else that works in that particular environment? Those are actually challenges for social housing. If you're targeting social housing, you need to consider just not the house itself, but the water, the electricity. Some of these things they usually get at subsidized rate. Now you're telling them to actually formalize things. You're telling me I need to be able to pay KPLC, and those are tokens. You're telling me to pay, I don't know what. It is not there. Those are not bills that they were prepared to pay.
So who is the target market at the end of the day? Because a majority of people are still living, below that salary you're talking about. And when you look at the demand and the rate at which the government is going to build the 200,000 units per year spread across the country, perhaps there is a target market at the end of the day. But again, from your research, when you look at the rate of income, the rate of supply, and now the rate at which the government is going to build the affordable housing, where are they going to meet again?
I would believe it will take just more than the government itself. I think the private sector need to go at it.
All right.
Because in as much as housing is a national issue, yes, but we find that private sector, there are people who actually work next to the community. They will actually understand more how the market works.
Yes.
The current real estate businesses, whether it is private, whether it is owned by the community, people understand their own customers. And if you work with the current partners or the partners that you have on the ground, they will actually tell you, for this particular gap, this is the type of housing that you... For instance, our project, we have one in Kwangu. There are 2 segments. There's a segment where people actually just can afford a single room simply because that is what they can.
That's
it is
what they can afford.
Yes, it is a 10 by 10. If you tell them to maybe to pay rent 4,500, that one is okay. But the person providing for it is a neighbor, is the person who actually got that land from their father. They might not have any economic, they are just doing the common things, selling mitumba, whatnot, but they were grateful enough that their father was able to provide for them land. So this particular person will say, with the amount of money that I have, I can go to KWFT, I can go to whatever and say, I want a business. I put up my Babati house, or I put up my Kwangu Kwako house, which is precast concrete. And then I provide for these people because there is a gap. People need a house. The issue is, how decent is it?
How decent? That's the question.
Is it made of paper? Is it made of grass? Is it made of mud? It is a shelter.
Yes.
But the issue is, how decent is it? And how humane is it? So most of the time you find the community themselves, the landlords, we call them micro landlords.
Yes.
Because you have your eighth, you have your 50 by 50, you have your whatever. Then they provide for the immediate neighbor that they are. Actually, those, for me, I call them investors because they're investing in themselves. They can get capital, the ones that this person, the tenant, cannot. So they provide. If somebody else were to step in there, they will get in the information from there. Because they will tell you, madam, hapo ukijenga nyumba hiyo pesa haitarudi. Here you will only build a house that people will take for 3,000, and they will pay you slowly every week, because that is the amount of money they are getting every week. They will pay you weekly, sometimes they will pay you in 2 weeks, and sometimes, because you know them one-on-one,
yes,
you will have to relax a bit, so that if they tell you, madam nachelewa, you will understand and actually come and pick. Then you move to the other ladder, where you find that it is from about 5,000, and then you go to 10,000, where you get into the house and akwambia, oh, we need for you to make a deposit, and then you pay the rent. So that if you're moving from stage A to stage B, that is like you're paying 10,000 or something like that. And then you sign a contract. Now that is another group where you've moved up from 3,000. Now you're expecting somebody to jump from there and go somewhere where they'll pay rent twice or 3 times above what is necessary. So there are usually several steps as you climb the ladder to maybe to become more prospectors. So it also requires different strategies, and all of them have players. Because they'll tell you mabati without electricity is 3,000. Mabati with electricity, and maybe you have put some cement.
Understand your customers.
Understand properly. Yes. Because anything you add like this small of it, it's just going to increase the price. Yeah. If you have tiles and mabati, that one is a bit better. Then you go to precast concrete, that one is a bit better. And then you go to the stone house, where every Kenyan is thinking you have a house, a stone house. Then actually you have arrived. You've arrived somewhere where we call, yes, uko na nyumba, at least you are renting. Then afterwards, then you go and build your own, if you can. If you cannot, then it means you're renting. And then we are not saying just in town, then you can meet.
But do you think the government has done enough research to understand all these things you're saying? Because when you talk about affordable housing, and a majority of Kenyans are not in a position to cough that particular amount, in some areas when you increase rent by 200, 300, even 500 shillings, there'll be an uproar in the apartment. Nobody will be able to pick that. And when you talk about affordable housing, as Kwangu Kwako, you do a market research, and when you look at the private sector and the government, do we have a link?
When you actually have a business, half okay, you can get statistics from the government, because they have the Kenya Bureau of Statistics. They have statistics. Statistics they have. If you don't have, they don't have. You have people like Habitat for Humanity. You have people like FSDK. All of them have statistics. Then one needs actually to position themselves, because I remember when we started in 2015, we actually wanted to do informal housing, as in informal settlements, and we designed our product in such a way that it can pass through alleys, because people will carry them. You can't get through cranes and things like that. Yeah. They had to be able to pass through alleyways, and they had to be carried. So a particular panel is about 35 kilograms and not more, and they can carry 2 people, or you can put them in a wheelbarrow. So when we started, we were like, oh, we are doing something nice. Shock, behold, you go and they're like, okay, the land does not belong to us, it is a communal land. So there is informal, people are building informally, because you don't know whether there's going to be a road, or the government is going to say ABCD. We don't want our things to be flattened. Then you're telling the person, is it possible, even if it is informal, somebody else has permit to actually build there, whether it's informal permission or not, they do have. So you go to the person and say, okay, we are building the house for you, it is not free, we are not a charity, we are a business. So how is it that you're going to get funding? That you can't use your land as collateral. So what collateral do you have? Don't own it. You don't own it. Yes. Your neighbors might say you have it, but you don't own it. So it is not actually yours to use and to sell. So half the time you find that you're building mabati because you don't have collateral, and you cannot access enough money for you to build a whole flat or something like that. So for us, financing for them was an issue. Yes, you want to put a big house, but you can't get money for you to build a better unit. So unless somebody else actually helps you to build it, that is why it is called social. You can't get across to it, because there are other things, underlying things. There is land, there is chiefs, and there are things that are actually involved in this particular informal.
A whole level of bureaucracy.
It is a whole level of bureaucracy and don't know what levels that you actually do. So unless you have somebody who actually can take it, for a private investor, that's a bit difficult for a personal company. So we actually moved a bit higher. I'm not saying that we are going to the middle class. No, we were like, okay, so we want to build affordable housing, but we want to target people who can actually pay rent. So because we can't afford to be like the mainstream developer, we can't buy land and then start having land and then cut. And there are people already doing that. What is the gap? The gap is like, we have middle class Kenyans who have land in Kawangware. We have middle class Kenyans who have land in Kangemi or whatever it is, the cities, I mean around the normal cities, around Kilimani, around Yaya, around Karen, all those people, because they feed the community. They feed them. That is why you have informal people or have informal land sprouting, because people feed in. They are finding jobs, whether it is your house girl, whether it is your gardener. They live somewhere. 5 minutes to walk, 10 minutes to walk. That is why they're living next to the city. So like, who is it that is next to that particular area and can provide housing? And normal people will find that. It's just like, Madam, I want to provide for my community. I am living here. I don't want to park my Lexus next to a Mabati house. I want to park Lexus where I can bring people and they are okay that I'm helping my community. Because the same people who are building the Mabati house, some of them are very well to do because the return of investment is like this.
Yeah.
If I were to actually say to the government, it's like, these guys, people actually know there is land. Why don't you use people who have land and actually make them build? They are business people. It is not charity, it's not free. The more players that are there, the better for you. Because as much as we're saying there's a deficit, somebody else is meeting at the moment. Nobody is living under a tree or under a bridge. Somebody is doing it. Why not give them the way or support them to be able to deliver more? Whether it is through financing, whether it's through helping them have some tax relief or something. Incentivize people. There are a lot of players actually doing stuff, just normal Kenyans.
Have you gone through the profile of the government project, the government idea of the affordable housing? Do you have a bit? A bit.
No, I'm not an expert in it, but
okay. But then, what is the demand? Single, as a bed sitter, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. When you look at the age group as well and the rate of income, what is highly on demand from your experience?
I think young people are really, I think our population, the young is a lot. So I would actually say between bed sitters is for people who are starting. That is normal for people who are, maybe it's small, you start small. So I would say it's a bed sitter, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. That one I would say. That is a lot for a growing population. Also depending with the amount of space that you need for your young family. It's a lot. So for me, I would say maybe single bed sitters, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. That is for affordable housing, I would say. Not social housing. Social housing, you need another aspect. All
right, let's take a break. And when we come back, I know this is something that is touching on many Kenyans, because when you talk of affordable housing, the issue of paying rent of around 50,000 shillings and the rate of income in the country, the way economy is right now, is something that perhaps the government should also think of based on what you've said. We'll be discussing that when we come back with Winnie. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. It's gone already. Oh, you need water. Welcome back. All right, if you're just joining us, we are talking about matters of affordable housing. The government will be launching another phase of that project in Mavoko later in the day in an effort to bridge that deficit of 200,000 units per year as per the government promise. With me here in studio, I have got Winnie Gitau, who is a CEO of Kwako Limited. But let me ask you a question, Winnie. The link between the national government and the private sector, how tight is that link?
I believe there's a link, but how tight is it is different metrics. Because a private sector needs to actually have the government permission to actually build, whether it is because of building permits, building codes and things like that. We are interlinked because we are in the same country. So it is actually linked, very well linked. Yeah.
So have you had any kind of a symposium or a meeting with the government so that whenever there is a project between the government and there's a private sector, then there is a complete flow and a smooth flow of information, perhaps to outsource, or government does everything by itself?
I believe the current one that they are going to do at Mavoko, they have involved EPCO, which I believe it is a construction company or a real estate that has been there for 40 years, so it is privately owned, if I'm correct. So in terms of the government working with private partners, it's already working. I would say the question is, which partners are they? Because there are different kinds of partners. The current one that they have chosen, it's a very old company and it's well off. If people are having, shall we say, a revenue of about what, 5 million according to their webpage, and they're having a turnover of about, they can actually have manage to build or have projects up to, I think they said something to do with 10 billion or 12 billion. These are people that actually have a lot of cash flow. They can actually cushion in the event that there's a gap.
Yes.
Most private companies, I would speak for myself, or people who actually in entrepreneurs or middle SMEs or other construction companies, most of them might not be able to withstand shall we say, the slow payment when it comes to maybe when you're partnering with the government.
Yes.
The delays.
Yes.
We can implement, but the delay in paying people back, they do not have the cash flow to actually warrant that particular delay.
Your business will stall.
It will fail. It is not stall. It will like flop because you need that cash flow. You need somebody to actually pay you so that you can work. After you work, you need somebody to pay you off. It matters a lot what the payment plan is. If you're telling somebody before you build, you give me 50%, then you give me 50.
Yeah.
I will do my 50%. After I've finished, I've reached the milestone, you need to pay me the 40%. Then you pay me the 40. Then from there, you will pay the balance after I've done. So you need to have that particular payment plan respected. But if you're paying 50 and then you stall, and then there's a payment gap of whatever, for whatever reason. So the building is stopped in the middle because your company, you can't go any more than that. You need to pay people, you need to pay your suppliers. They don't understand about that one. You need to pay your suppliers. Other projects are also waiting. So it actually depends on which partners we are. But most of the time, it's because I would like to work with the government, whether it is building or affordable housing or actually any other, whether it is schools and things like that. For me, my big issue is cash flow. I need you to pay me back. I need you to pay me for me to be able to do your job.
Kwangu, Kwako, what is your target market?
Our target market is usually rental, and we work together with micro landlords. We work with people who have land, because those ones are the ones that are next to their customers. So a person like, say you, Victor, you have land, and you have land in Kwangu or whatever, and you're saying, in this particular market, I can see the need here is 1 bedrooms, or I can see here the need is bed sitters. You as Victor can actually access financing because one, you have a job, you have a pay slip, and you have somebody who can actually sign.
Exactly, as a guarantor or something.
For you, you're okay, you can get the money. So as Kwangu Kwako, you come and tell us this is what we do. You come, tell us this is a design, we come and build for you. Then you pay us off. You remain taking the rental because for you it is a business. You're not giving away these things. That is for you is an investment.
That sounds like an off plan?
It's not. It's not exactly an off plan. You can say it is an off plan if you look at it that way. But you've bought our products directly, and then we construct for you. Remember, it is rental. None of your customers are actually there. They have not contributed anything. For you, Victor, that is your investment. This is your business, and you want your return of investment maybe for the next 7 years. You have other businesses. So for you, it's okay. And if you go to the bank is not going to rely on this revenue that you're going to get from this particular project. They will rely on your salary or on another second stream of income that you're actually getting. For them, this is an experiment. Can you prove to yourself that it actually works? After it has actually worked maybe for 6 months, then they can say, okay, we can see that there is revenue. You can actually build another one based on this asset. So you actually go like that, because the bank will be like, this is an experiment. You need to actually see that it has an income for us to benefit.
And what is your target market?
Like I've said, it's affordable housing. A middle-class Kenyan who has land, or anybody who has land, then we come in and build. You can access financing, then you pay.
How did you come with this idea? Because it's completely not like the rest of the ideas people have, or the tenants of the real estate companies have around.
It's because we believe that we trust the normal Kenyan to actually want to work with others. They already have land. You have a piece of land. I want to bet everybody in this studio, or at least half of them, have land somewhere. So why not use the existing land? I'm not the government. I can't be given land. Me as Kwangu Kwako, that means I have to buy land and then have to substitute. And when I'm buying land, it is so expensive in Kawangware. If you actually want to buy land, you have to go outskirts of Nairobi. And who wants to go outside? The people that we are actually funding, or the people we are actually targeting, our customers that we are targeting, are people that are being paid maybe 20,000, 30,000 Kenya shillings. If you're paid 30,000 Kenya shillings, it means the rent that you can actually afford is a third. That means it's 10,000 or less. And for that, you'll get a bed sitter.
Okay, let's take a break.
Yes.
I'm told that we have that live link all the way from State House right now, Nairobi here, where the president is now overseeing the swearing in of High Court judges. We have to go straight to State House and take that link live starting right now. And back in studio here as we come to a close with our earlier conversation that we had. I had Winnie Gitau, who is the COO of Kwako Limited, a real estate. This is a complete departure. But before we continue, looking at that as a female, as a lady, 20 ladies sworn in as judges of the High Court, something to be proud of.
Yes. I definitely like the fact that it was actually half of the judges today. Yes. So I really I liked that, because half the time people like ticking boxes, as in I'm ticking a box of a third. Therefore, for me, I usually take it as you're putting me as a flower vase.
Yes.
So I better be recognized for my contribution as well as for my qualifications. So for that, that is above, I would say. Absolutely. That was good.
All right. So as we come to a close, tell me the issue, in just 2 minutes as we wind up, the issue of the public-private partnership with the government to realize the affordable housing. How is it going to be, and how do you think the government should work on it so that there's that smooth flow of this process?
Okay, so far the president is actually looking at bridging the gap of around 200,000 shortage in terms of housing.
Yes.
That one can be done with the government, but I think it is going to be more achievable with other partners. It might be private partners. What other private partners are looking at, I think I mentioned about funding, payment. We are looking at infrastructure. Infrastructure is a bulk of actually a lot when it comes to expense. We are talking about the sewer system, we are talking about electricity, we are talking about water. So all the private sector, if the government actually provides infrastructure, roads and things like that, that is actually going to make lives easier for private developers, entrepreneurs, name them. Even if I'm saying the private Kenyan who is an investor, as I call them, middle class Kenyan, the first thing they have to think about is just not land. Land is available. Yes, I have land. The person calls and they say, is there a sewer system? No, we don't have one. So he's thinking about soak pit or septic tank. Then he thinks about biodigesters. That is just money going down the drain. If we have infrastructure, then it follows people will actually help the government in delivering. It doesn't matter if it's 50 here, 100 there, 20 there. Give people incentives, tax incentive, or if they're coming in to ask for permits, make them faster. People have money. People want to actually build our country. It is ours. Hatuhami. So we actually want to take care of our own community. So give us means to enable us to work. That is a goodwill. That is all we're asking. Nothing much.
All right. What is your focus as Kwako?
Our focus is actually rental, in terms of rental units in Nairobi, as builders, manufacturers, and constructors. We are looking at people who are willing to step in for people who cannot afford housing, or people who are doing a stopover so that they can build the house. We provide housing in terms of middle Kenyans buy, and then people can rent for them. It is their business. The other one we are looking at is Kenyans who usually use incremental housing. They don't have a lump sum. So you'll come and buy, maybe it is hollow blocks. We have different products. We have precast concrete panels as well as hollow blocks that are interlocking. Those are things that you just put them together and then you assemble them. So kind of like Lego pieces. It is easy, you just assemble them. You buy them, then you can assemble them, or your fundi can assemble them, so long as you have an engineer's drawing and the normal things that you do for construction. If you buy the materials, you can actually buy incrementally. You have 100,000 today, you buy the materials for that. You build your small thing, then you incrementally build your 3-bedroom or 100 buildings or whatever it is, whether it's rural or whether it is urban. Because housing shortage, we are not only saying the shortage is in cities or second cities. No, shortage is everywhere. So you need to settle people otherwise to create space for other people to occupy housing.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm afraid that we have so many questions, but because of time, we are not able to go through the questions one by one. But you ask questions. Thank you so much. We'll be responding to them. She will be back next time to answer to questions and even more as we talk about matters affordable housing in the country. All right. That is Winnie Gitau, the COO of Kwako Limited. Of course, the president later on will be heading to Mavoko to launch the affordable housing there to bridge the gap of housing deficit in the country. Remember, 200,000 units is the mark per year for the government as the government agenda. That's where we stop at this particular point. Thank you so much for your valid company. My name is Victor Oloo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.